just so you know. I'm going to mostly read New York poems because we're here and I just love being in this kind of space. I miss it. I miss all the dive bars. So let's dive together. I was born in Manhattan on 144th Street and Convent Avenue. Spent most of my childhood in Enwood, all the way uptown, suburban New York, right? So I'm going to start with a poem called Back to the Streets, which we lived in Westchester for a while. I'm so happy to be back here. So this was written when we were still there. Back to the Streets. It's a quick trip. Just take the Hudson Line down to Marble Hill, walk across Kingsbridge, and there, city streets that overlook time. Common's funeral home where the small cortege took your mother to her grave. The diner, cracked plastic booth without your palsied dad, grieving cold food, hot air, lack of daughter. The branch library where you and he had the best of what he could give. The subway that pulled you to the high school that erased the street from your voice while nourishing scorn for lives that didn't glitter. There's a way in for you. Maybe it's not too late. Taste it. The music of the mundane you mourn. My maternal grandmother was born in Ireland. She came before the Easter Rising. That tells you a lot about her, if you know anything about Ireland. So this is the way it was at Nana's. Nana cooks the very best eggs, crispy, brown on the white parts, sloppy-goppy yellow, and I can eat fat Unita biscuits anytime I want. She'll even let me play with the big blue pitcher that sits on the tiny table. There are bubbles trapped in the blue glass, but I have to make sure I don't get Grandpa mad and make him take the strap to me. And I try not to tinkle because the bathroom's all the way at the end of the hall and I have to stretch up to pull the chain and all the while yell to Nana, then run back to the tiny table and pretend I'm a fine lady. But we don't like the Queen. Don't much like the king either, but okay. So this next poem is my family were all blue collar, big in unions, which I hope are coming back. Some actual good news these days. So Mike Quill, for those of you who are younger, was a union organizer for the transit unions, and he spoke with a not real brogue, but people loved him. So from the underground. My father says he works on the I should tell you, I guess you know, these are all in different voices. It's persona poems, so that this is actually it's a young me, but sort of. But and then there's an old me, and then there's lots of me's. Anyway, that's another issue. But I've been in a lot of therapy. Okay, from the underground. My father says he works on the subways, not for the bosses, but for Mike Quill, who takes care of all the men. Mama says Daddy works for us. He came from Ireland all alone. His parents died. He had no sisters or brothers. He says that isn't as it should be. I guess so many of us is as it should be. He stops most nights at Sam's. He likes his pint. Mama says he works a hard day and deserves his rest, but he always takes care of us, and don't you forget it. But we're on strike, and Mike Quill just died, and we don't know what will become of us. A man named Lindsley wants us all in shanties. We have to be ready for hard times. One of the things the Irish are pretty creative about is cursing. So this next poem is called Bad Cess to Her, which actually, cess means luck, so bad luck. This is an extended curse. From one side of these streets to another, back to the land where we all came from, to every parish in snow or fever, may there be no place where her name is known. Let her feel the blast of a widow's curse as the death of the kittens be to her, a death without clergy, doctor, or nurse, forgotten by even sister and brother. May the devil cut her head off and make a day's work of her neck. Then maybe I'll say enough is enough, and not curse further the wretched wreck, the slimiest maggot that's ever been, she who dared speak ill of my daughter, Noreen. Not that daughter. Some of these you can, sort of believe, right? A charmer. Wasn't I just telling her, keep away from the likes of him, he'll never come to anything. So he's handsome, so was his father. Look at him now, a wreck of a man. Too sick to work, they say. Too much drink is the truth of it. A real black Irishman, dark, wavy hair, broad shoulders. He moved like a cat. And couldn't he sweet-talk his way into Fort Knox? Would you listen to me going on? Not that he ever really got over on me. My mom made sure of that. I'll keep my daughter from the sun. She'll find a steady man. Slim hips don't last. So I ended up going to a school downtown, fancy school downtown from Inwood, and ninth grade speech therapy. First day of school, they tested all us new kids. Mrs. Bookwald labeled my S's sibilant and my overall patterns reminiscent of a Brooklyn longshoreman. I am to practice lip and tongue placement in front of a mirror and must declaim with more serious precision, or can expect all and sundry to perceive my lack of proper elocution merely a symptom of minimal inadequate education. Daddy says I sound like a little snob. And we continue with our teenager, the heart of rock and roll. Joda's mother says the song is dirty. You know, you got what it takes, like doing it. But at least they talk about stuff. They're Unitarians. They don't exactly believe in God, but believe you should be good for the sake of being good. I wish we were like that. I don't want to go to confession anymore. What have I done? Skip gym class? I've never even done a big sin. Once the line was long and the priest said any kid who'd already confessed that month should go home. Now, if I don't confess by next week, I'll be in a state of mortal sin. I'll go to hell for not talking. Pre-Cana, if you're Catholic, it's meetings that you should have before, and back in the day, this Paul was referencing, of course, the pre-Cana classes were conducted by the priest who taught people everything they knew about marriage. So, pre-Cana. Stopping babies isn't any mystery. I told your uncle when Jimmy was born, we can't afford another one. If you want sex, you'll put it on. He said no way. I said no sex. He put it on. It's not a big deal. Just don't go to confession about it. Marriage is between a man and a woman. Let the priest marry you, baptize babies, say Holy Mass, pray for your soul. That's their job. You'll know what's best in bed. Don't be blushing, kiddo. I wish somebody told me the same. If Tom doesn't make your skin hot, find a man who does. And the last poem that I'm going to read from this book is, this is a true story. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. It's okay. My daughter. False gods. My mother skewed strings of holy names if the toast was too crisp, if I spoke out of turn, if death came to the house. I left her curses for college and marriage, but back divorced and firmly agnostic. I'd never briefed my 6-year-old on saints or litanies of exasperation. Small town girl in urban confusion. Yesterday, Deirdre gave her grandma what she'd been given in the schoolyard, a quick jab with her middle finger, triggering a fusillade of Jesus, Mary, and St. Joseph, leaving Deirdre running in fear, wondering why I hadn't warned her about all these people only her grandmother could see. So, my book that came out last year goes from New York to New Jersey, and it's about a beach house that we restored. It was my father's sister, so I would spend most of the school year in our 3-bedroom or 3-room apartment in the tenement, and then go down to my aunt's, and they had a house that had lots of bedrooms, and it was 2 blocks from the beach. And it was always supposed to be mine eventually, but my cousin died without a will. And that's a long, messy story. So I'm just going to read a couple of poems from it. The first one I'm going to read is a couplets, and you can help me with the couplets if you will. I'm going to read the first line, and then you can figure out what the rhyme's going to be. So, house story. Here is the house, here are the people. Across the street, yes, there's a steeple. Birth date 1912, we are told. Lordy me, so many years old. See how quickly the old folks go, shuffling to death all in a row. I shouldn't be reading this one today before my birthday. Okay. Okay, well, all right. Sorry, that's not in the poem.
Great improvise.
The house dying too. What should we do? Prop it and patch it with super glue. Buckled siding holes in the wall, screens and awnings ready to fall. Stained glass, slumped glass, cracked or no glass, ants, ash, mildew, a crumbling morass. Toss out decades, level saw sand, darling house, you'll soon be grand. Oh, sand! I hope so in the process of trying to deal with all of this mess, what I found out was that the uncle that I loved, we ended up with very little ownership in the house because he had a whole family nobody knew about. So that was fun. So I'm going to read a villanelle. You'll hear the repeat that I wrote to sort of deal with this. It's called Echo of the Undertow. Another letter from a guy named Joe. Lies, jailbait, sorry in a weave, secrets, silence, the undertow, battering in plaintive echo. Love us, don't leave, don't leave. Another letter from a guy named Joe, naming, rhyming, endearments flow, sculpting lives. What can you believe? Secrets, silence, the undertow, yielding more than you want to know. Follow the rack line and retrieve another letter from a guy named Joe. Wed who, when, blanks in his bio. The uncle you adored, now you grieved. Secrets, silence, the undertow. Traceries of sea grist below. Ebbing tide, no more make-believe. Another letter from a guy named Joe. Secrets, silence, the undertow. And so connected to that, I started thinking about who says what and when, to have and have not. Here's looking at you, kid. Men said things like that. You know how to whistle, don't you? Just put your lips together and blow. We know a woman said that, at least in the movies. The camera was there, but she didn't write the lines. They were scripted for her. She's just a kid. He's been around. See the rakish angle of his fedora? How his cigarette dangles? She keeps talking and thinks he's saying something. And I'm going to end with a poem that's based on a sonnet by Edna St. Vincent Well, I was told that something about really disturbed poets just came out recently in the news. I don't have all the details. But this is one about that's sort of talking about poetry itself and how I came to poetry. Pity me not the waning of the moon. Moonlight strained through rusted fire escape bars. Slow summer streaming through my teenage days. Smog and streetlight glare blocking out the stars. Love, just a pop song or movie screen's haze. Desire trembling at my windowsill, sent off to my aunts at the Jersey Shore, cooled in the languor of tedium, till I found a battered book's rhymes of love's lore. Enthralled by passion's fickle wax and wane, I learned the lines by rote, if not to heart. Forewarned is not forearmed, it's all too plain to see how little I learned of my part. Though besotted, bereft, or breaking vows, poems always know more than the heart allows.
Nice.